On today's podcast, we sit down with entertainment attorney, educator, and host of the Break the Business podcast, Ryan Kairalla. Ryan has spent his career helping artists navigate contracts, build successful independent careers, and avoid the biggest pitfalls facing musicians today. We dive into the single most common mistakes artists make with record deals, the blueprint for independent success in the modern industry, why artists need to think like CEOs, and the game-changing legislative advocacy shaping the future. If you're an artist looking to break through or just want to understand the realities of the music business today, you can't afford to miss this conversation. Insiders, are you ready?
Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's episode, we're honored to welcome entertainment attorney, educator, and podcast host Ryan Kairalla. If you're an artist looking to navigate the modern music industry, this is an episode you simply can't miss. We dive deep into the changing reality of record deals, big tech's impact on musicians, the critical importance of understanding contracts, copyrights, and publishing, and why more than ever artists need to think and act like entrepreneurs. Ryan also shares powerful insights on what success looks like in today's landscape, the value and potential pitfalls of record labels, and how artists can create value and leverage their talent before even thinking about signing. We also cover essential advice every artist should hear, from the mindset and education you need to the proactive business moves that can shape your career's future. From legislative advocacy to creating opportunities for yourself, Ryan delivers wisdom that will empower you to take control of your destiny. Whether you're just starting out or ready to venture independently, you definitely do not want to miss this eye-opening conversation. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey Insiders, ready to crush it in the music world? Whether you're an artist, band, or future music biz pro, MUBUTV's personalized coaching is your secret weapon.
We'll work with you side by side, sharpening your songs, building your brand story, locking in your ideal audience, and powering up your social media game.
Starting fresh or ready for the next level, we cover everything: live shows, marketing hacks, branding, all tailored just for you.
Flexible coaching packages let you decide what fits your time and budget. Single sessions or discounted bundles that make investing easy.
Imagine the boost after just one session: clearer goals, smarter strategies, and unstoppable confidence. Get started with a free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com. That's book.mubutv.com. Let's make your music career unstoppable. Hey Insiders, are you ready to take serious control of your music career? Whether you're dreaming of getting signed, finding the perfect artist manager, or landing your music in movies and TV shows, MUBUTV has you covered with 3 essential free guides.
First, learn how to contact A&R the right way. The insider secrets to approaching executives without burning bridges and with confidence.
Next, discover how to attract the right artist manager, when to start looking, what to expect, and how to find someone who truly believes in your vision.
And finally, unlock the world of sync licensing with how to pitch to music supervisors the right way. Get your music placed in film and TV, reach new audiences, and open up exciting revenue streams.
These guides are packed with real-world advice, practical steps, and the do's and don'ts every artist needs.
If you're listening on this podcast or watching on YouTube, just check the description below to download your free copies now. This is your blueprint for turning dreams into reality. Don't miss out.
Hi, this is your career A&R executive, Kim Bowie, and you're listening to the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is none other than entertainment attorney, educator, and podcast host Ryan Kairalla. Really enjoyed this conversation with Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, we were guests, I believe,
on his show, Break the Business Podcast,
yeah,
which is a great show that everybody should check out. So listen to that podcast.
Definitely a wonderful podcast. He made a comment that I thought was so interesting, which is the idea, and we've heard this theme explored before in some of our conversations that we have had on this show with people, which is that the record label and getting a deal and getting signed has different value
Right.
And it's not the same for every artist.
Yeah.
And that was something that he talked about that I thought was very interesting. How labels can boost some, but many creatives will thrive more outside of the, I guess, so-called label box, especially the multi-hyphenates, the people that are in multi-genres or in multi-disciplines of doing things. In this era of today, labels do not have the same value for all artists. It's not that generic blueprint across the board. That was a really interesting point, I thought.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. And one of the other areas, sticking with record deals, that record deals are no longer the only path. Many artists still believe that success requires getting signed to a label, but technology now offers countless opportunities to succeed independently. And I mean, we've had all these cutting edge companies in recent weeks and our recent episodes that are really proving that that's not the case anymore, that you don't need a label. And it gets back to your original thought that you said earlier that, the record label is not for everybody. It's for a certain type of artist, I think. And it really depends on what path that you're going. And so I think that was a really great point that Ryan brought up.
Yeah, exactly. And he talked about a lot of things in here and I think you'll really find them, valuable. But, one of the things is that you have to keep yourself educated today. A lot of more responsibility. And we hear that again and again, Eric, that a lot more of the responsibility of learning this stuff, if you want to be an artist and have a career, is on you.
And with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation with Ryan Kairalla.
Ryan, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Great to have you. You've spent your career helping artists navigate contracts and avoid pitfalls. And, in your podcast, Breaking the Business, you talk a lot about working with artists and about contracts. And I wanted to ask you, for an emerging artist today, what's the single most common misconception you see that they have about record deals? And how can they protect themselves from making that mistake?
Well, I think the biggest misconception that artists have about record deals, and thankfully it's not as much of a misconception as it used to be 10 years ago, but a lot of artists still harbor this view that the path to success inherently has to involve this traditional route of getting signed to a record label and having the record label own your material and control your destiny and to just go down that path. But now, thanks to advancements in technology, all these opportunities are available for artists to do it their own way, to find success on their own terms, and ultimately have a happier and much more fulfilling career.
Ryan, it's really great to have you on the show. You advocate for an entrepreneurial, artist-centered approach. What does a blueprint for a successful independent music career look like today, and how has it evolved in the last 5 years?
Well, I think it looks a lot like the way any startup looks. I work with startup companies in the tech sector, and I work with a lot of artists who are running their own music careers. And a lot of the functions are fundamentally the same. I mean, the clients in the latter group tend to be better looking, but the processes are often the same, right? They're setting up companies, they're creating contracts, they are running their own empires. It's maybe one company at the top with some subsidiaries underneath, but they're running an entertainment company just as a tech company runs a tech company. And to the extent that an artist can get comfortable with just the functions of running a business alongside their creative endeavors, they can be effective in this new artist-centered, artist entrepreneurship kind of construct. And in the last 5 years, this model has only become more prevalent as more and more tools have been created that allow artists to have more control than ever over how they make music, how they promote their music, and how they distribute their music. You can put all of that under the roof of your company that you run and do it all under your own terms.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you because, you are philosophically under the same, feeling and beliefs that Eric and I are, in that, we really believe in education. We believe that educating an artist that's educated is going to be a successful artist. And, in listening to your podcast, you've emphasized the importance of artists understanding contracts, copyrights, and publishing. Can you discuss why you feel artists need to be more educated about the business aspects of their career today, more so than in previous eras?
Perhaps it's my own background as a teacher that makes me inclined to want to educate my clients and not just give them legal services, but to have them walk out of a engagement with me more knowledgeable than when they started. I teach colleges. I I've mentored a lot of artists. I'm a teacher at heart, even before I'm a lawyer. But artists have to be educated for the same reason that CEOs have to be educated. Artists are CEOs now, especially if you're running your own entertainment type company as an independent artist. You have to stay up on the general legal principles of your industry. You have to stay up on the emerging technological trends in your industry. You have to see what your competition's doing, just as any CEO would. It is a prerequisite now. A lot of the artists these days who are getting exploited, who are crashing and burning either creatively or in the business side of things, usually it's from a lack of knowledge, not being able to stay on top of the trends in their industry and being knowledgeable about them.
Yeah, it's because I too am a teacher. And I do feel that this is a very, very, I don't believe that we're in the era where if you're just talented, there's a whole system out there to support you. That may have been the way it was in the 80s or early 90s, but that reality certainly doesn't exist anymore. And I think the responsibility on a bigger cultural level within the arts, the responsibility of the artist today, especially when they're starting out, I think is so much greater in terms of the artist becoming more accountable and doing more at the start of their career to attract an audience and to attract representation than ever before.
I could not agree with that more. And I would say of my more successful clients, they tend to skew towards people who are actively involved in the business aspects of what they do. My most successful clients, they will be at the table with all of the business people, the lawyers like me, the finance people, the managers. They're at the table. They're not just outside the room saying, hey, whatever you guys decide, let me know. They're at the table with us. They're asking us the tough questions. They have the courage to say when they don't know something and to ask us to explain it to them. I think a lot of people are afraid to admit that they know, that what they don't know. But the most effective business people as artists are the ones who say, hey, that thing you just said, that doesn't make sense to me. I need you to take a step back and explain it to me. And those tend to be the artists in my world, the clients of mine that are the most effective. They're actively involved and they ask great questions so that they can make effective decisions.
Yeah, they have a strong level of curiosity. I want to ask you, Ryan, based on your experience in the industry, is the value of a record label in today's world the same for all artists?
No, it definitely isn't. And if the new music industry, quote unquote, means anything now, it's that there is not a one size fits all cookie cutter model for artist success. Even though I would call myself a record label skeptic among folks in my industry, I'm also not going to sit here and say that the record label model doesn't work for any artist. It's certainly working out very well for Ed Sheeran or anybody in that neck of the woods, in that stratosphere of the industry. But I think it doesn't work for everybody. If you are the kind of creative professional that wants to create a wide range of content, you're not just going to be a music person. Maybe you want to write, maybe you want to act, maybe you want to create TikTok videos, and you are this multi-hyphenate, super creative entity. Well, the label model, which might kind of force you into the musician box, might not fit well for you. Similarly, if you're the kind of artist that likes to have full control over their career, doesn't want to have to answer to somebody, wants to be the boss, wants to have that entrepreneurial spirit, I'm not convinced the label model is great for you either, because somebody else is going to control what you do every day and is going to own the things that you create. So it's not one size fits all anymore. One of the things I like about the way the industry is now is that there's so many different paths to success, and there's so many different ways that you can achieve your dreams in this industry, and you don't have to go right into the record label box if it doesn't work for you, which it doesn't for many creators.
I absolutely agree. Ryan, with the rise of so many varied independent artists breaking through, do you think that we're redefining what success means?
Yeah, I think it's certainly not the way it always looked back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? It used to just be that a successful artist was a recognizable artist. I knew an artist was successful if I saw them on MTV, if I saw them selling out stadiums. And of course, there are plenty of artists who were on MTV and did sell out stadiums who weren't financially successful because they had bad record deals, but that's neither here nor there. But I think in today's music industry, there are a lot of folks who you would call successful in that they are making a good living, they're paying their mortgages, they're raising their families, and you might not know who they are. You would not recognize them if they walked down the street. You might not feel compelled to ask them for their autographs, but because there's so many different paths to success in the industry now, and that success can look so differently, you can be a quote unquote successful creator without having the highly visible path to stardom that artists had a generation or two ago. And I think that's a good thing, because I think you should be able to be successful and financially secure as an artist without necessarily having to go the traditional route of being this highly recognizable star that doesn't have privacy and can't live a normal life.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. I mean, I talk about this very thing with my students a lot, that, what you said, that success looks differently today. You may have people that can sell out the Hollywood Bowl, but people wouldn't recognize them walking down the street. It's a very, very important distinction. I want to ask you something, Ryan. Do you feel that new artists and, songwriters and musicians need to create more opportunities for themselves these days before getting signed? In other words, do they need to raise their profile and do more before getting industry attention?
Yes, I think that is true mainly for two reasons. One, we just have the new reality in the music industry now where, more so than in prior generations, record labels don't want fixer-uppers anymore. They want turnkey properties. It used to be in the old days, if you were an artist that had a lot of promise but didn't have a lot of fame yet, they'd sign you to a demo deal and they'd have an A&R department work with you and kind of help you build yourself up and become famous. Labels don't do that anymore. They don't have vast A&R departments like they used to. They don't take on projects. They want an artist that already has a built-in following, that's already ready to go. And then all they have to do is just sign you and sell your music, because labels don't have the luxury of swinging and missing as much as they used to. And they want an artist that's ready to go. The second reason why I think this is the way it is now and why artists are better off achieving more success before they go the label route is, and I can tell you this from a lawyer's perspective, you have more leverage in a contract negotiation with a label if you bring a track record of success to that negotiation. If you already have lots of fans, if you're already selling, if you're already making lots of money, you're going to have a much better chance of negotiating a good deal with that label. You might be able to own your masters. You might be able to get a better royalty rate. You might be able to get better recoupment terms. And if you don't have those prior things, those prior attributes in your record, you're probably not going to be able to get as good of a deal with the label. But all of that begs the question, if you've already have the fan base, if you're already making the money, if you're already successful, why do you sign the label deal in the first place? And that's often the argument I make to my hyper successful clients who are asking me to help them negotiate a record deal.
Hey, insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor. Hey there, insiders. Are you dreaming of making it big as a musician, artist, or industry pro? Well, at MUBUTV, we offer personalized coaching to help you turn that dream into reality.
Think of us as your personal guides, helping you polish your songs, craft your story, find your fans, and grow your social media like a pro.
No matter where you are in your journey, we've got the tools and strategies to take you higher. From live gigs to branding and marketing, our coaching is all about you.
Choose what fits your budget, from single sessions to value-packed bundles.
Start with a free 15-minute discovery call today at book.mubutv.com. Your music career is waiting. Remember why you started making music? That feeling of passion, hope, and longing, wanting someone to hear your story?
But chasing success can be confusing. Who do you reach out to? When? How do you avoid mistakes that could close doors?
At MUBUTV, we believe every artist deserves a clear path forward. That's why we've created 3 free guides that cover the essential skills every musician needs.
How to contact A&R executives with confidence. How to attract an artist manager who gets you. How to pitch your music for film and television placements.
These aren't just tips. They're blueprints designed for artists who want more than just dreams. They want results.
If you're listening right now on this podcast or watching on YouTube, look in the description below. Download these free guides that will change how you approach your music career forever.
Don't wait. Your future fans are waiting.
Hi, this is Ed Poston, head of A&R at Symphonic Distribution. Are you an insider? I am. Subscribe now.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's, that the value of a label is not the same for every artist. And you've just pointed that out very astutely in that, a lot of times I think the model, having come from A&R myself, is not, is this artist talented, but is this artist an ongoing business that we want to get in bed with? And that's the big difference, is that, today, as you've pointed out, the model and the platforms and the technology that allows artists on their own to become successful, or at least, highly visible, is far greater than it was back in the day when labels had all the power. And on a cultural level, musically, you had to be chosen when you were signed. Now that's not the reality anymore. You don't have to wait for Sony to say, here's money for a demo, or, we pick you. Now you can go out and do it on your own and show that you do have an audience. You do have, people who are interested in what you're doing, regardless of whether the label pays attention or not.
That could not have put it better myself. I had a client who referred to the old music industry model as the princess fantasy, the idea that an artist is waiting in the tower for the record label to come and rescue them from their unknown status and give them all the fame and fortune that they desire. And now you don't have to wait in the tower anymore. Now you can do all the things that you would hope a label did for you a generation or two ago. You don't need a label's advance to make your record anymore. You can make literally Grammy-winning records in your bedroom, as many artists today have done. You don't need a record label's infrastructure and supply chains to get your music out into the world. You now have worldwide distribution at your fingertips with platforms like CD Baby and TuneCore and DistroKid. Promotion is all social media now. You don't need a record label that has the connections to get you on The Tonight Show anymore, because you can have worldwide promotion at your fingertips with social media. And if you want to hire a publicist to give you a little extra boost, you can do that. And it's not going to be something that you need a label to do for you. And it's an exciting world, and it creates lots of opportunities. And none of this is meant to say, by the way, that what I'm describing is an easy path. It is still very, very hard. And most of the artists, the vast majority of the artists who attempt this route, will not succeed in the way that we would often associate with success, right? You're not going to, they're not going to make, vast fame and fortune, but you do have more autonomy over your career than you've ever had before. And that is equal parts exciting, but also terrifying for some.
I couldn't agree more. Ryan, throughout your career, you've worked with thousands of artists. What do you feel holds artists back from success in their careers?
Well, let me give you the perhaps more controversial answer, because I imagine your expectation was I was going to give you some answer about some kind of flaw that I think a lot of artists have, like, oh, there's some psychological thing that holds them back, or they're not getting enough education, or things like that. And maybe all of that is true, but how about a different perspective? I think in a lot of ways, more so than perhaps ever, the deck is stacked against today's independent artists in a way that's really, really unfair. And sometimes when artists don't achieve the success they want, it's not completely their fault. When I wrote Break the Business, the original Break the Business book 10 years ago, the big scary thing that was hurting artists was record labels. I wrote a whole book about how we need to get away from the record label model. 10 years later, we have gotten away from that model to some extent. Labels don't control the industry the way that they used to. Unfortunately, we've taken the control of major labels and shifted to a new industry where the control is being exerted by big tech. And it's what's holding back a lot of artists from success is you have platforms like Spotify that are woefully underpaying artists. You have platforms like TikTok that are woefully underpaying artists and exerting way too much algorithmic control over what artists get to be seen by what fans. YouTube is the same thing. And so a lot of these big tech platforms are now siphoning a lot of the value that artists are creating and holding a lot of them back. And I understand it's a double-edged sword. And the other side of the argument is, yeah, but these same platforms are giving creative professionals an audience that they didn't have 10, 20 years ago. But it still is creating a world where most of these artists are creating lots and lots of value, and it's being extracted by big tech companies way more than it should. And it is holding a lot of artists back, and it's preventing a lot of artists from achieving their true potential. And it's something that, that bothers me a lot. And it's something that I hope we find a solution for, although If you know what it is, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, no, I think, you make some great points. And I think that it's becoming increasingly difficult because I'm fond of saying to my students that the most valuable commodity in music today is not the size of your company or power or market share or money. It's something more profoundly fundamental in the world we live in today. It's the ability to attract somebody's attention. And the reason that's so valuable is because it's the one thing left that we can't buy anymore. And you can't buy it in music. You can't buy it in films. You can't buy it in TV. You can't buy it in books. You can't buy it in any form of media in a world where we have an excessive, overwhelming amount in every single medium. We live in a world of what is it? They call it the tyranny of choice. You turn on Netflix and you are literally overwhelmed. Where
it'll take you an hour to find a show
that you want to watch. Exactly. Right. And it's no different in any of the other mediums. So yeah, I mean, it's a very, very important point. And this is one of the things that I think, Ryan, is so important in the work that you do in education, in educating artists about what is the reality of the world that they're actually going into today. I think that is so important to operate in, rather than it's just all about their talent. It's just all about the music. It never really was, but today you have to understand that world very, very much so in a way that I don't think you did in the past.
And artists have to make a stronger voice about legislative advocacy and advocating for the legal policies that would improve this industry for independent artists. So I said before, I don't know what the solution is completely, and that is true. But one thing that would help is if we created real federal legislation that was specifically directed toward improving the lives of independent artists. We pass a lot of copyright law in this country, and every time we pass a law, the Music Modernization Act, for example, we say, oh, this is a win for all musicians. And that's not fully true. It's a big win for big music rights holders like record labels. And it's a tiny, tiny little win for the independent musicians that I work with and I know you guys care about. What I'd like to see is some real legislation that's specifically built to helping independent artists. Representative Rashida Tlaib has a bill that she puts out in every Congress now called the Living Wage for Musicians Act. It doesn't get a lot of recognition because the Democrats aren't in power right now, but that law would specifically help independent artists by putting more money in the pockets of independent musicians when their music is played on Spotify. It would change the royalty models. It would, create 1 cent a stream minimum for music that's played on Spotify. That is a law that would specifically help independent creators. And I would love to see a groundswell of support for legislation like that, because we need to see real laws that are specifically catered to the folks that you and I work with if we want to see real change in this industry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ryan, I want to ask you, throughout your life, are there any books or films or documentaries that have been particularly inspirational to you, professionally speaking, that you could recommend to our listeners?
The first one look, in terms of books, I think all the same books that every music professional that cares about the music industry should read, I have read and I would recommend. Obviously, the Donald Passman book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, that should be required reading for anybody in this industry. I think the Indie Band Survival Guide is good by Cherkow and Fian. Anything that Cherkow and Fian wrote, you want to read that. Very, very important stuff for independent musicians in there. I think the movie that inspires me, and it's not like the most important movie I've ever watched, but it's the one I often think of when I think of like how we can fix the industry, is the Mark Ruffalo, Keira Knightley movie Begin Again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just, it's a cute movie, and it was directed by the same guy who directed Once, which is also like a cute music movie, and he makes a lot of cute music movies. But I just remember a scene towards the end of that movie where Keira Knightley, who's playing the artist, the musician in that movie, is getting signed to a record deal because she just created this album. And the record label is trying to, say, hey, sign this deal and we'll make this album very successful. And she's sitting in the room with all these industry suits and she's just like, well, let me get this straight. I don't need your money to record the album because I've already recorded it. I don't need your help promoting the album because we already have word of mouth. Why would I do this deal? What is the value that you are providing that I can't already provide? It seems like all you're going to do is just take my value and not give me very much in return. And I was like, man, Keira Knightley in like a 30-second monologue summarized my whole book. And so how can you not be inspired by that?
Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Ryan, what advice do you have for artists who are committed to building a career in music today?
Register your copyrights. A lot of artists don't do that and don't think that they have to, because they usually get some bad advice about like, oh, you don't need to register your copyright. You just need to mail your music to yourself or something like that. It's a whole other discussion for me to explain why that doesn't work, but just take it from a lawyer. There is no substitute for registering your copyright with the government, including mailing your music to yourself. Don't do that. Register your copyright. It's really easy to do. You can have a lawyer do it. If you don't want to use a lawyer because you can't afford it, there's a platform called cosigned.com, COSYND.com. They can register your copyrights. You want to register your work. It is the most important store of your value. And you want to make sure it is protected, and copyright registration is the way to protect it. Beyond that, create. Creativity is a muscle. The more that you create, the stronger that muscle gets, and you can create more stuff. Similarly, like any muscle, if you don't exercise that muscle regularly, it atrophies. And more than ever, your fans have an insatiable appetite for you to create stuff. The old model of just one album every couple years doesn't really work anymore, because in a couple years, your fans could forget about you. You always want to be creating new stuff so that you always have something new to share with your fans, so that you have something new to promote, and so that your fans don't forget about you. And it allows you to keep that creativity muscle nice and strong. Create. Very important.
Okay. Ryan, what is the best way for people to reach you? Is it through your website or through socials?
Or through the podcast?
All of those are good. You can check out Break the Business on all major podcast platforms, on volume.com, on Twitch, on YouTube. And you can also find us Monday nights on SiriusXM 145, where the show is rebroadcast. You can email me. I'll give you my email address on the show. If you ever have any questions, you ever just want to chat, just RK, my first initial, last initial, at breakthebusiness.com. Just shoot me an email. I spend a good chunk of my day just answering emails from artists because I want to help them. You can go to rkpalaw.com if you're looking for legal services, or ryankairalla.com if you just want to learn more about the projects I'm working on. Love to chat with your fans.
Wonderful. Ryan, we can't thank you enough for taking the time
so
to
much.
do this. Thank you so
much. We're so
much.
glad we got you on the show, after having you on us on your great show. So
really appreciate it very much.
It's very much my pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So glad that we had Ryan on the show. I remember when we were on his show, a lot of great information was exchanged. But, he spoke about a lot of points and reemphasized a lot of things in this conversation that I think are really valuable. The one thing that really stuck out for me, Eric, among many things, was how he talked about the redefinition of success.
Yeah.
And that's a really important distinction. I mean, we tend to think of success as big hit records,
right,
big album sales, big ticket sales. And those tidy little classifications don't really work so much today. He pointed out that today success doesn't necessarily mean fame or recognition, and that many artists are financially successful and living fulfilling lives, even if they're not household names.
Right.
And I've had that experience in my own classes with students and artists. And that's an important factor for people to remember, is not to think of success. We tend to think of success as huge visibility.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Not today. And that was an interesting point. I mean, he made so many, but, think about record labels, but that particular one really stood out to me.
Yeah, one of the other aspects of this conversation that I really enjoyed was the blueprint for a successful independent career. He compared the modern independent, artist to a startup founder, sharing that artists are now setting up businesses, creating contracts, and managing their own empires. And that this approach, similar to tech entrepreneurs, has only been enabled further in the last 5 years by a wave of new tools. And so it's this whole idea of creating, I always call it your own cottage industry. And that's what he's trying to talk about, that today the tools are there for you to do it. You don't need a record label. You don't need to have those classifications of success. It's what you define as your own level of success. That's what's going to make you successful as an artist.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a consciousness spread among the artistic community around that. And it's a very important point that you just brought up, because what we're seeing is, the spreading of talent and the spreading of success become more and more independent, which is requiring artists to become more and more accountable for their careers.
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.